A pro wrestler's turning to alcohol or substance to deal with pain and trauma from pro wrestling isn't exactly rare. Over the years, we've seen names such as Jake the Snake Roberts and Scott Hall all let their personal demons get the better of them, and unfortunately, these two legendary names aren't the only two who have had their wrestling careers negatively impacted by personal demons. Number 10. Sha OHare. In 2003, WWE had major plans for Sha OHare. He had every tool it took to be a star in the Ruthless Aggression era, and it helped that OHare had a unique and captivating gimmick that had the fans excited. WWE would even pair him with the legendary Roddy Piper, so it looked like a certainty that OHare would ascend to the main event scene in WWE. But a motorcycle accident would derail OHare's place in WWE, and unfortunately his life outside the ring was nothing but problematic, so it's hardly a surprise that WWE lost complete faith in him. OHare would have several run-ins with the law, and in 2004 he was arrested and charged with multiple accounts of assault, and he was even accused of striking two women. Fast forward to 2007, and he was charged with aggravated assault and battery. In 2009, he was arrested for allegedly assaulting his girlfriend. Ultimately, OHare would be found deceased in 2014 by his own father. OHare was reportedly battling depression for years, and his substance addiction was so severe that he had attended a WWE-sponsored rehab 6 times before his untimely passing. Number 9. Grandmaster Sexay. When Scotty 2 Hotty went down with an injury, it put the Too Cool tag team on a hiatus for an extended period. Whilst WWE, to their credit, did try to present Grandmaster Sexay in a new role, fans had gravitated towards the Too Cool duo, so it was hard to invest in Sexay as a single star or even a new tag team pairing. In June of 2001, it was reported that the former tag team champion had been released from WWE. This wasn't down to creative not having anything for him, it was because he was illegally conveying drugs across the Canadian-US border, so WWE had no choice but to cut ties with him. He would have numerous runs in other promotions over the years, and he even had an extremely brief stint back in WWE in the year 2004. In 2009, he hit headlines after it was reported that he was arrested for public intoxication, and in July of that year, he was jailed for 30 days after failing to attend an inpatient treatment center. In July of 2018, the former WWE star was jailed for driving under the influence, and just a few weeks later, he was found hanging in his cell. Fans and fellow wrestlers were quick to pay tribute to an Attitude Era fan favorite, and his work will be fondly remembered for many years to come. Number 8. Zack Gowan. Zack Gowan was a name in the Ruthless Aggression era that had disappeared virtually out of nowhere. Gowan was great in his role, and even though he was thrown in there at the deep end with top names including Brock Lesnar, he managed to deliver some outstanding work, and it's a shame that his WWE tenure was cut short. He was battling demons when WWE released him, and he reflected on this during an excellent interview with Chris Van Vliet. I didn't have the wherewithal, or the emotional maturity. I didn't have the self-control or the foundation to be able to handle the gift that I had received. It was beyond my ability to just be a human being, or to be a wrestler, or to be someone responsible. I indulged quite a bit, pretty much every opportunity. Because you have to understand, at high school, I never drank, I never smoked, and never went on any dates. So all of a sudden at 19, a year later, you're a WWE superstar, all of that becomes available. And it was like, yeah, finally I've arrived. This is great. And it wasn't so much the drugs and alcohol at the time, it was the inability just to be a productive member of a team, the inability to conduct myself as a representative of a worldwide billion-dollar company. I didn't have the tools to do it. Number 7. Goldust. Dustin Rhodes aka Goldust is a name that has thankfully managed to turn his life around. Goldust has now been sober for 15 years and he's still performing at a high level in AEW. Now, this has been a difficult road for Goldust, and there's been numerous times throughout his career where his life struggles have sadly negatively altered his career trajectory. For Goldust, it wasn't the WWE environment that was causing him to have drug issues, as this got even worse when he jumped ship to TNA to portray the infamous Black Rain persona. Goldust would discuss just how bad things were at this point in his life during an interview with the Post and Courier. It was day in and day out, probably 2 years solid, and I can go through the list of things. A half a gallon of vodka a day, probably 60 or 70 pills a day, plus other stuff like cocaine. It wasn't good, but I didn't care. I didn't see the other way. I only thought about where I could get my next fix. I didn't see what it had done to me, what it was doing to my family and everybody around me. Whilst it's hard to determine if Goldust would have become a world champion or been given a substantial main event push in WWE or any other wrestling company if he'd stayed clean, there's no denying that the legend himself had a ton to offer and could have easily been moved into a major role. Number 6. Raven. Raven has never been one to shy away from the fact that he's battled substance abuse during his career. In fact, when Raven was released from WWE in 2003, it was theorized that behind-the-scenes antics made WWE never fully commit to Raven and his persona, and this is what the legendary Jim Ross had to say regarding the 2000 release on his podcast. Sometimes Vince has selective hearing and selective memory like all of us, so Scotty just never fulfilled his potential there in WWE. Talented guy, a good mind for the business, but there was questions at time about his reliability. Is he down a rabbit hole a little bit with his extracurricular actions? I don't know. I don't recall him flunking a drug test, but he might have. He just never fit well. He didn't fit well enough for Vince to let all that slide and keep rolling with this push, because we all knew that the push is everything. JR is spot on with his assessment, as Raven had so much insane talent that WWE could have tapped into. Whilst he was never going to be pushed to work with names such as The Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin, he could have had a permanent place in the mid-card in WWE, but all they were interested in was presenting him in the hardcore division or on Sunday Night Heat. Number 5. Shawn Waltman. Shawn Waltman, aka X-Pac, had an unbelievable reputation as a pro wrestler in the 90s. It wouldn't be hyperbole to say that Waltman was considered to be one of the most reliable pro wrestlers in North America, as he could have great matches with anyone, and the fans absolutely loved him. Whilst he had an outstanding reputation in the ring, the same couldn't be said for his reputation behind the scenes. Waltman was well known for having substance abuse issues, and Eric Bischoff once claimed that Waltman was a competent performer when sober, but these sober periods were few and far between. When he left WWE in 2002, every time he appeared in the media, it seemed to be regarding a negative story. Waltman has been open regarding his struggles, and he admits that he struggled with an addiction to methamphetamine and narcotics such as cocaine and painkillers. In 2008, it was revealed that Waltman had attempted to take his own life. He consumed a mixture of alcohol and pills before the attempt, but thankfully, his girlfriend at the time was able to make sure that he was okay. Waltman hasn't had it easy, but thankfully in recent years, he's truly managed to work on himself, as he's often a guest at WWE shows and looks to be in a great place mentally. Waltman is evidence that anyone can overcome the lowest of the lows and get their life back on track. Number 4. Umaga. Between 2006 to 2009, Umaga always seemed like a name that was on the edge of greatness. Umaga was pushed into the main event scene numerous times, and each time he delivered. However, Umaga never became WWE champion, which was a shame, as he would have been embraced in the role by the audience. Even though the talent were always there with Umaga, he certainly had his demons. In 2003, it was a bar fight that led to his initial WWE release, and in 2009, he was released for a final time for failing the wellness policy and refusing to enter a rehab facility. The sad thing about Umaga's release in 2009 was that he would pass away just a few short months after his release. It took some time for WWE to acknowledge Umaga's work and his untimely passing, and thankfully in recent years, his body of work and legacy has been celebrated on WWE television. There are even calls to see the former Intercontinental Champion inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, and hopefully one day this becomes a reality. Number 3. Road Dogg. One of the most popular stars of the Attitude Era was Road Dogg. However, as the Attitude Era went on, he began to be used less and less on television. It transpired that he was battling personal demons, and these were so severe that WWE were forced to fire him in 2001. It took some time, but Road Dogg eventually got clean and sober, and the first person he called when he was back on track was Jim Ross, as he wanted to make amends. Road Dogg has now been clean for 13 years, and he's been working with WWE in a major role backstage for the past decade. Number 2. William Regal. When it comes to the most underrated pro wrestlers of all time, William Regal is often placed towards the top of the list. Regal was a phenomenal pro wrestler, and he was able to portray any character with conviction and depth. Unfortunately, every time it was looking like Regal was going to receive the main event push that he deserved, his demons resurfaced, and WWE were forced to go back to the drawing board. The most notable instance of this was in 2008. Regal had just won the King of the Ring tournament, and it was rumored that Regal was going to feud with Triple H over the WWE title. Sadly, Regal had failed WWE's wellness policy, and that was enough for WWE to cancel the push immediately, and Regal would never be trusted in this kind of role again. Whilst these demons were able to derail Regal's momentum time and time again in WWE, he was lucky enough to take on numerous roles backstage. As things stand, Regal is currently in WWE and is considered to be one of Triple H's closest confidants. And number 1, Jeff Hardy. WWE were put in a difficult position in 2008 when it came to Jeff Hardy. Hardy had become the most popular wrestler in the company, and the demand was there to see Hardy become the top guy. The issue was that Hardy wasn't reliable, as he had inner demons that often came to the surface, and this often led to suspensions and suggested stints in rehabilitation facilities. This was a frustrating time to be a Hardy fan, but it was understandable what WWE's dilemma was. They would commit to giving Hardy numerous runs as champion between 2008 to 2009, but none of these were lengthy. If WWE did commit to going all the way with Hardy as a guy, then it could have backfired massively, and in the PG era, WWE had to have a squeaky clean guy as a face of the company, and unfortunately, Hardy didn't meet that criteria.